Hi guys, and yet another one of these smaller reviews. This time for the Shozy T1. I got this from Penon, and Shozy is one of those brands that I I like and I appreciate them for trying to be different. They're a brand that falls within that group of brands such as ISN, such as Penon, such as Chimera, such as even Tansio Mirai. So what I'm basically trying to say is they are brands which try and go their own way when it comes to tuning, try and do their own thing, and it's one of those situations where you are open enough to embrace that tune, or you're not, and you just then don't go for those brands. Tansio Mirai has a very detailed sound, very mid-centric, with just the right amount of mids and treble to accompany it. Penon and ISN go for a more warm, lush presentation, more kind of an emphasis on the bass and on the sub bass, but always with this perfectly executed mids and just the right amount of treble. And then Shozy follows again that same route of Penon and ISN, but even more bass, and more bass in the mid bass actually. So they have an added emphasis on the mid bass. But the problem is that although the mids are, for the most part, very much similar to the mids that you find on an ISN or on a Penon, because of this added emphasis on the mid bass, it kind of makes the sound just close down and become very, very muddy and very unclear. For me, out of the shows that I've had, and I mean I can't speak too much because I haven't had too many, but the only one that I just don't have with me now was the 1.4, the Shozy 1.4. But even the 1.4 compared to the 1.1, I still prefer the 1.1. In the 1.1, the name, I think, to a certain extent says it all. It's a 1DD, 1BA. 1.4 was a 1DD, 4BA. Then later on, I got the series, which is again a 1+1. And this was, for me, a very big disappointment because, I mean, this is $180. I was expecting something that would really at least supplant the 1.1, and it didn't. It's got basically the same kind of mid bass presentation, basically the same kind of upper treble presentation, but then the mids are just a total. I don't know what happened here. Honestly, I just don't know. So this was a really big disappointment. Enter the T1. What is the T1? The T1 is a single ED. It's an 8mm driver. Brings a nice case. It actually came in this case. Shozy. It's got two cables, as you can see. Plenty of tips, so no issues there. Well, it actually brings one cable, and the other cable was something that Penon actually gave me, but it brings just one cable. Let's make that clear so I don't arrive or start having confusion here. As for the IM itself, the shell, it's a very, and this is the biggest disappointment for me. It's a very low quality plastic shell. It looks very flimsy. It just I don't know. I mean, this is $30, and come on, I don't want to call brands or say brands, but the reality is this: if 1 year can do it, Tangzhou, obviously, if 7 Hertz can do it, if KZ can do it, then why, Shozy, would you make such a cheap looking shell? Why? I mean, I don't understand, honestly. The driver itself doesn't seem to be a bad driver. It's just the tuning that it has, which is different. Well, and the tuning follows, as I began in the start of this review, follows the Shozy kind of house sound. A very strong emphasis on mid bass. Then between 2 and let's say 3K, things get a little bit more recessed. and then it opens up again, upper mids, early treble. That part there is fine, but that closing down of the mid treble, it's the mid the middle section of the mid range just before it enters the upper range of the mid range. So that part there between 1 and 3.5, because it's slightly recessed or more than recessed than usual, as compared to especially the mid bass, which it's got a healthy dose of boost. It makes for a sound which is very, very going to be mono genre. It's going to be, for certain genres it will be amazing, for others not so. So if you like vocals and instruments and so on, forget this. If you, on the other hand, are more of a fan of EDM, then probably this will be a good one for you. If you like rock, forget this as well. If you like classic, forget this as well. If you like, basically, honestly, it's just electronic music, and electronic music which isn't too complicated, in the sense that it's electronic music which has just got bass and treble. If that's what you like, then this is perfect. Okay. And in essence, that basically summarizes it all. I mean, it's not that I dislike the sound. It's very, very, very genre specific, and obviously then it makes it very niche specific. This is not an IEM that a lot of people will appreciate. Honestly, in my opinion, this is not an IEM that many people will appreciate, and it kind of, it hurts me to have to say this, because like I said, although I haven't had a lot of Shozy products, and although my experience with Shozy has basically been an experience which has been good only with the 1.1. The 1.4 wasn't bad. I just felt that between the 1.4 and the 1.1, the 1.1 was the one that made the most sense. There was nothing that the 1.4 twice the price offered, but basically the sound of those two was fine. The series was a total disappointment. So it's a brand that, although my success rate with them hasn't been the greatest, I don't dislike it, because I appreciate where they're coming from, what they're trying to do. And unfortunately, the T1 falls within that same category of some of the IEMs that I've just reviewed, the C5 and the LAN, the Moondrop LAN, in the sense that it's fine, it plays okay, nothing spectacular, nothing that's really stand out. And at $30, it has such tough competition that there's really nothing that I can say to justify it. If at least the build quality was a little bit more, like wow. I mean, let me put it to you this way. I remember paying $55 for the 1.1. $55, my friends. This was back in 2021. It kind of makes me wonder what has gone wrong between 2021 and 2023, that the quality of a nice resin shell, okay, nice solid looking resin shell, I mean, this looks the business. This was to a certain extent considered to be like a nice upgrade over the Blonde BL03, and to a certain extent I agree with that. It's a nice little upgrade over the Blonde 03, although I still feel that the Blonde 03 is better and a better IM overall. But yes, you could consider this to be actually, you know what, let's say this is a nice side grade over the Blonde 03. Okay, no, honestly, I don't know. I think it's time for me to perhaps consider testing a few more of their IEMs to kind of see if I can make a more concrete decision on what my feelings for Shozy are. But as of now, I still stand by what I said earlier. I appreciate them for what they are. I appreciate Shozy for trying to be different. But different has its limits. I am very open to alternative ways of tuning. I'm very open to alternative ways of doing things, but I still have my limits, and this just barely makes those limits that I consider acceptable. I mean, barely. All right. Anyway, guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions that you might have, please feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.